I did not get a physical copy of the book. I was not able to get it. I read it online, and I'm going to be talking about my favorite moments from the book. So if you're planning on reading the book very soon, or you're planning on reading the series at all, this video is extremely spoilery, so just get off this video and go read it. Go read it. It's worth it. Anyways, I'm going to be talking about my favorite moments, and I had a lot of favorite moments, so let's get started. Alright, so my first moment was when Reina was watching Nico sleep, and basically here's what the entire scene was. Reina marveled at how peaceful he looked. The worry lines vanished. His face became strangely angelic, like his surname, D'Angelo. She could almost believe he was a regular 14-year-old boy, not a son of Hades who'd been pulled out of time in the 1940s and forced to endure more tragedy and danger than most demigods would in a lifetime. It goes on to say she'd never been a touchy-feely person, but she had the strangest desire to drape her cloak over Nico's shoulder and tuck him in. She mentally chided herself. He was a comrade, not her little brother. He wouldn't appreciate the gesture. I love this moment so much because it's Nico feels like I have a soft spot for Nico D'Angelo because when I was younger I had like a massive crush on him, like a really massive crush on him, and then he ends up gay and I'm just like, oh, that just makes him even better. Like, I want him as my gay best friend. That's all I want. I want him as my gay best friend. And so this relationship between Reina and Nico, I really liked it. I liked that they became good friends at the very least because everyone shipped them. But I personally was like, no, they're brother and sister. That's all I want. Alright, so my next moment is basically when Annabeth is deciding which 4 people should be the people to go to Nike, and Percy gave her a sideways smile. Yeah, we can't have another incident like Kansas. I might kill my bro Jason. To which Jason replies, or I might kill my bro Percy. And I liked this. It was just like them going at each other slowly. But then, like, later on in the book, Jason ends up saving Percy's life underwater too, so it's brilliant. And then number 3. It's the part where Leo and Percy are hiding behind. No, they're waiting for Frank and Hazel to get to them, and it says, for one thing, he being Leo, wasn't sure what kind of small talk to make with the guy who'd recently come back from the Tartarus. Catch that last episode of Doctor Who? Alright, you were trudging through the pit of eternal damnation. And I like this moment because Doctor Who. I expect Leo to be one of those, like, really big fanboys that every girl wants. I love it. I like that he put those little touches in there. And my next part is when Percy and Leo are hiding behind the wall during the huge fight, and Percy's like, oh, yeah, I know about you and Calypso. And Leo's like, oh, wait, what? You know? How? And Percy's like, oh, it's a small boat. People were talking. I eventually figured it out. And then he does this thing where he's like, oh, I'm sorry. I should have followed through with my promise. I should have made sure that he survived. I should have made sure that the gods kept their promise. And Leo's not having any of this. He's just like, what the hell are you doing? You're putting all of this on me now? Here I am trying to be mad at you and everything for being such a good person, and here you are apologizing, promising to help and everything? What is this? It's just brilliant. Alright, what's my next moment? My next moment is a bit of Nico and Hades action, and not like that, you bloody pervs. So it's basically the scene where Nico and Hades speak, and they're not going at each other's guts. So basically, because it's a really long scene, what happens is that Nico and Hades are speaking to each other, obviously. They have this thing where they have similar humor, so it just makes the scene even better. And what happens? They're talking about Hazel at one point, and here's the best part, which Hades really deserves the Father of the Year award for this one. Okay. My son, Hades' tone was almost gentle. Whatever happens to you, you've earned my respect. You brought honor to our house when we stood against Kronos in Manhattan. You risked my wrath to help the Jackson boy, guiding him to the river Styx, freeing him from my prison, pleading with me to raise armies of Erebos to assist him. Never before have I been so harassed by one of my sons. Percy this, Percy that. I nearly blasted you to cinders. And this part I really, really liked because it just proves that Hades knew that Nico had a crush on Percy. And even if you don't think that Hades knew, the next part easily proves it. It says, Nico took a shallow breath. The walls of the room began to tremble, dust trickling from the cracks between the bones. I didn't do all of that just for him. I did it because the whole world was in danger. Hades allowed himself the faintest smile, but there was nothing cruel in his eyes. I can entertain the possibility you acted for multiple reasons. And I was just like, oh, Hades knew from the beginning that Nico had a crush on Percy, and he knew, and he was fine with it. He didn't yell at Nico. And knowing that, whoever says that Hades is a bad father, you obviously don't know his true, he's the god of the dead. He deals with dead people all the time. I'm pretty sure he would have a bad time with humans. Just saying. Alright, and then the next part, which everyone's really freaking out about, says, my point is this. You and I rose to the aid of Olympus because you convinced me to let go of my anger. I would encourage you to do likewise. My children are so rarely happy. I would like to see you be an exception. And I was like, oh, my heart, it tingles, it tingles. Hades really deserves the Father of the Year award. He deserves it. And Hades goes on to say, oh, you know, if you don't survive this and everything, I'll make a room for you in the palace and everything, and I'll decorate your room with skulls of monks. I was like, oh, and Nico jokes back saying, oh, now I can't tell if you're joking, and Hades is like, oh, then we have something really big in common. And I was like, oh. Alright, what's my next scene? Alright, my next part is when Reina was kidnapped and she awakens and she attacks that girl. So it says, on the floor, Reina's hostage began to shake. Reina thought she might be having a fit. Then she realized the girl was laughing. Something funny? Reina asked. Girl's voice was a gravely whisper. Jason told me you were good. He didn't say how good. Reina focused more clearly on her hostage. The girl looked about 16 with choppy black hair and startling blue eyes. You're Thalia? And I'd be happy to explain, Thalia said, if you'd kindly not cut my throat. And I love this because I miss Thalia so much. The last time we saw her was in Lost Hero, if I'm correct. It was Lost Hero. So it really touched my heart to know that, yes, we did get to see Thalia, and we did get that. We got that. And then Reina's sister comes and just screws shit over. Okay. And then basically later Reina asks, oh, when am I gonna get my stuff back? And Thalia says, they'll be returned when you leave. I know it seems silly, the kidnapping, the blindfolding, and whatnot, but Amazons take their security seriously. Last month they had an incident in their main center in Seattle. Maybe you heard about it. A girl named Hazel Lavasque stole a horse. And I thought back, I didn't remember this at first, and then I thought back to Son of Neptune, and I was like, oh, it's that same horse. Oh. So yeah. Okay, so my next part is when Thalia is fighting the giant, and the giant is basically speaking to her, and he's like, oh, child of Rome, before I kill you, I'm like really curious and everything. Why would you help the Greeks? I mean, quote unquote, Percy refused you, Jason Grace scorned you. Haven't you been, what's the word, dumped enough? Oh my god. He did not just say that. I remember freaking out. I was like, but personally, I never really liked Jason. I really didn't like Jason at all. Percy, I mean, everyone, all you girls out there, you all had a crush on Percy at one point. I'll admit it, I did for a while. Alright, so the next part that I wrote about was when Nico and Hedge go to the souvenir shop, and they got like the matching shirts, the tropical shirts, and Nico's like, don't mention it, don't speak about it. And then after that, a while after that, Reyna starts speaking to Nico about her past, like her dark past, about how her family is blessed by her mother, and then she is the only one who is born from her mother, and it's like a whole story, which is really interesting, and I really liked it. And then, okay, so this is the part where Leo, he finds Apollo and a Termus, and he needs the cure, the magician's cure, and Apollo's like really upset, he's mournful, he's kind of like, he's depressed. At the very least, he's depressed. And he's on a ukulele and he's like strumming really sad stuff, and apparently it hurt Leo's feels. It hurt his feels. Now I know what the tweet from Rick was. Basically Rick sent out this tweet saying, oh, I'm learning from you fangirls, and I didn't get it, but now I get it. I love it. Alright. And then Frank mentions Octavian to Apollo, and Apollo kind of rages and he says, do not speak his name. Apollo strummed a minor chord. Oh, Frank sang, if only you were my child. I heard your prayers, you know, all those weeks you wanted to be claimed, but alas, Mars get all the good ones, and I take that creature as my descendant. So, obviously, Apollo's not so happy with Octavian. And then the Romans and the Termus, they go to this other room while Leo and Apollo, they're speaking and they're trying to, you know, come up with an agreement, and they strike a deal. Leo gives Apollo his Leonizer? I forget what it's called, but it's this instrument, and Apollo takes it. It's like, he's dying over it and he loves it. Okay, so then Percy and Annabeth, they basically get to the place where their parents started the huge rivalry at Athens, and they get to the exact place where Poseidon put his trident